Okay, this is my recipe for jerk lamb, real favourite of mine. What I've got here is a leg of lamb, and what I've done is just coat that in some everyday seasoning, or you can use your own dry rub. This one I'm using is Dunn's River. I think you can find it in most supermarkets, if not all of them these days. I mean, it's got salt, mustard, coriander, garlic, sugar, chili, all that kind of stuff in it. You can make your own though, not a problem. I've slashed the meat and I have stuck some bird's eye chilies in those slits just to kind of get a bit of flavour going. And what I'm going to do first is just to sort of brown off and caramelise the meat. I find it easier to do that on a barbecue. So what I've done, I've cleaned up my barbecue, got the grill on, just going to oil the bars. That's generally a good tip. Don't oil the meat, oil the bars, otherwise it will just drip straight onto the coals and you'll have a fire on your hands. So I'm putting the lamb straight on. Doesn't matter if the chilies fall out, they're so hot. You probably wouldn't want to eat them anyway. And we're just going to cook that on both sides. We've got 5 minutes aside, so it's kind of caramelized and even a little bit burnt. That's the kind of sear that you're looking for, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so that's been cooking for a couple of minutes now. We're just going to go for the first turn. I'm not worried about a little bit of flame, that's all flavour. And there we go, that's what I'm looking for, some caramelisation. Don't mind a bit of the black stuff on it either. It gets that flavour into it, and it's only where the powder's sort of caught a little bit. So just going to do that for a couple of minutes on the other side now. Okay, so I've cooked that for a couple of minutes now on the other side too. Just having a massive meat fork is a really good idea. So it's kind of done on both sides now. I'm going to put that into a baking tray, leaving the foil open at this stage for the next part of the process, which we'll do in the kitchen. Okay, so I'm in the kitchen now. Lamb's ready in the tray. I've got my oven on. It's set to about 150 Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but a low oven, for about 300 or so. And then I'm going to marinate it now with the jerk sauce, which I've used for speed this time, just like a Caribbean cooking sauce from the supermarket. Generally that's tomato based with loads of sugar and spices and chili. Generally I find them far too weedy for actually what you're looking for. So into this I've added a load of fresh ginger, half a bulb of garlic, about 4 or 5 bird's eye chilies. You can use Scotch bonnet or be traditionally the one to use, and some spring onions. And I'm going to put about half of this sauce over the lamb and keep half of it back. Oh yeah, I've got some fresh rosemary in there too. Just kind of spreading that, getting it all the slashes that you've made in the meat, getting it all covered. I don't generally worry too much about getting it on the underside, because as it cooks it just sort of seeps down around the sides. Just getting all those surfaces covered like that. Again, we keep half back because you're going to need some of that later. We finish it off. So stage 2 is essentially like a slow cook in the oven for as long as you want, really. I usually think about 4 or 5 hours. So we're going to seal all this up, stick it in that low oven, come back to it much later on. Okay, so that's been slow roasting in the oven for about 6 hours at 150 degrees. You can see now how it's all starting to look much more like what we'd expect. Now the sauce marinade that you had left over, the half that we've retained, I can now quickly pour that over again, just to kind of get extra flavour. And previously it's been covered, so I'm now going to put it back in the oven for about another half an hour to 45 minutes, just to finish it off, and then that will be done. So that's just come out of the oven after another hour or so. Probably said 45 minutes, but just keep checking on it. Absolutely lovely. Now if we've done the job right, we should be able to do, again with a knife, is just, you can see how it just comes apart quite easily, not pressing very hard at all. Just flake that up, still juicy, still moist, and serve that with your favourite sides, or some bread, rice, whatever you want. So I've just teased that apart with a fork. So what you should be able to do is just still a bit hot. You can see how clean that bone is. It just falls totally off, and you've just got pure meat, pure flavour, all good. And there you have it. Jerk lamb, still shiny, still moist, served with some couscous and some homemade roti and your favourite hot sauces. Give it a go. Really tasty, really quick, no cleaning up to do afterwards. Get stuck in.